Okay, Mr. Mayor, we are live.
Great, thank you. So today is April 7th, 2021. The time is 5:03 p.m. and I am calling to order the Baldwin Park City Council special virtual meeting. City Clerk, can we please get a roll call?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Daniel Damian,
Here.
Councilmember Monica Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alejandra Avila,
Here.
and Mayor Emanuel Estrada.
Here. Thank you for that, City Clerk. Chief Deputy City Clerk, is there anybody looking to comment?
Yes, Mayor, we have one caller. Let me call him now.
Okay, what is his name?
David Segrist.
Good afternoon.
Hi, is this Mr. Segrist?
Yes, it is.
Hi, it's Mayor Estrada. I'm calling you from the City of Baldwin Park regarding your effort to make a public communication. You have 3 minutes, okay?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate it. Should I start now?
Go ahead.
Good evening, honorable members of the Baldwin Park City Council. My name is David Torres Segrist, and I'm appearing tonight on behalf of my clients, Baldwin Park Tail Corp, Medical Grade Farms BP, VRD Inc., GSC Capital Group. By way of background, each of these owner-operators was an original applicant in the fall of 2017 for cannabis licensing in the city. Each one has paid more than $500,000 to the city by way of mitigation fees. In fact, 3 of these entities are still working on obtaining their occupancy permits. I want to be clear that these folks are not millionaires or faceless large corporations with unlimited cash flow. They're made up of hardworking class people. My clients have created jobs in the city, they pay rent, and a couple of them have been property owners in Baldwin Park for over 30 years. This is not the first time my clients have voiced concerns about mitigation fees or the massive disparities between the development agreements. They've met with council members over the last several years to discuss glaring problems with the terms of the development agreements and the mitigation fee scheme. However, every time the response is the same, and it always comes from your city attorney. Quote, you signed on the dotted line. Quote, you negotiated these terms. Respectfully, these terms were never negotiated. And there have been several things that have occurred within the recent several weeks that call into question the integrity of the mitigation fee scheme and the development agreements. Primarily, the knowledge that former council member Pacheco pleaded guilty to federal corruption charges involving bribery, and also the settlement agreement with Rupley. But putting that aside, think about it. If these are truly mitigation fees, how and why would the amount be bargained for? Or why would they be different for any of the owner-operators? Wouldn't the amount charged by the city be dictated by the true and actual impact of commercial cannabis on the city rather than be an artificial product of negotiations? I would urge you all to please read through each development agreement. I'm certain when you read each one, you will see that there is at least one owner-operator's agreement, RD Tropicana, when compared to all the others, that you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. That group got more than $1 million head start over all owner-operators. Respectfully, the mitigation fees, we've got questions. How are they being retained? Are they being used exclusively to mitigate cannabis impacts on the city? Where are the yearly reports that are required to be generated by the city showing the balances of the mitigation fees owed, the fees collected, the interest earned, and ultimately, what are these mitigation fees being used for? Also, what are the specific impacts of the cannabis operations on the city? It's
Thank you,
easy
Mr.
to
Segrist.
say
You are
for police code enforcement, but where are the correlative studies?
okay. Mr. Segrist, you are out of time at this point.
Okay, I appreciate it, Mayor. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Have a wonderful evening.
All right, thank you. You too. Chief Deputy City Clerk, is there anybody else looking to speak?
No, Mayor.
Great, thank you. At this point, I do move to close public communications. And I believe we are going into an open session and we have the safe parking presentation. So we can go with that. I believe Manny.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening. Tonight, we have the overnight safe parking program for people experiencing homelessness presentation. And we have Armando Nava from the Family Service Center that will be taking the lead from here. Armando?
Thank you, Manny. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Armando Nava. I'm the Program Coordinator for the Terry G. Muse Family Service Center. And today we'll be presenting along with my colleagues from Volunteers of America of Los Angeles, Craig Henry, Senior Program Manager, and John Ruffin, Safe Parking Manager. We'll be presenting the Safe Parking Program. The Safe Parking Program is for people living in their cars. The program is funded by LASA and operated by Volunteers of America. And at this time, I would like to turn over the presentation to my colleagues, Craig and John.
Hello. Safe Parking is basically a program that was implemented by LASA last year to afford the opportunity for individuals who are experiencing vehicle homelessness, a place where they can reside safely for the night. The program basically encompasses the participants being on the lot in a safe, conducive environment. There's also case management services that's offered for the clients. The ultimate goal is to actually get the clients housed. We're on the Housing First model. At this slot, primarily, you guys would be either allowing us 20 to 30 cars, and each individual will have their own separate space. We do have gifts and services that we do offer outside of case management, i.e. minor vehicle repair, DMV services, pay for assistance with moving in if they need rental assistance for to move in, security deposit, so forth and so on. We have been currently operating 6 safe parking programs from Lancaster all the way to San Pedro. The majority of our programs have been very successful. The clients actually benefit from it because most of our clientele, from what we're finding out, would much rather prefer to be in their vehicles than to be in a shelter. So we just try to accommodate and meet them where they are. Right now, our newest venture is San Pedro. That's a 30-car lot. It's over in San Pedro off of 7th and Beacon Street, in a primary area where the homeless count has risen. There is a shelter right next to it. So we offer basically 2 types of service. You have the shelter and you have safe parking. If you guys have any questions about safe parking, I'm more than willing to answer at this particular time.
Let me introduce. This is Craig Henry, the Senior Program Manager for the Safe Parking Program. John said that most of our lots are successful. I'd like to reiterate and say all of our lots are successful. Go ahead, John.
Yes, if you guys have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Yeah, so I have a question. So this program is administered by LASA. So let's say, we have somebody in our city that's currently living in their car. Can they just show up to the site, or do they need some sort of referral, or how does that work?
We have a direct line directly that goes to a case manager that's on 24 hours. So anybody from your city or the adjoining cities, for that matter, can contact, and the case manager will take down their information and set up a date and a time for an intake. And that's the process. Anyone can be referred. The police can refer 211, another service provider. So basically, we'll take a walk on or a drive up, as we call it, and we'll just allow them that night, but they would have to meet with the case manager that next day to have an intake performed in order to be brought into the program.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said once they're there, they are provided wraparound services, and you also provide rental assistance. You said a down payment so they can get into a home. Is that what you mean by that?
Yes, we currently work two different modalities for housing. We have problem solving, which is also offered through LASA, which helps with the first and last month in security deposit. And it also helps with payment for utility bills. And then we also have within VOA ranks, what we call rapid rehousing funds that we utilize for our clients to help assist for their housing needs.
Okay, and I have another question. So once these safe parking places are established, when we have people go there and park overnight, do you have security in the area? Do you allow them to be outside with a group of people, or people come over and be around the site? How do you control that?
We have monitors that are actually scheduled on site during what we call business hours. Our business hours typically run from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So at that time, we would have monitors on. We don't consider our monitors security. They're actually monitors because they're actually trained and equipped to deal with our clientele from our homeless population. They're trained to handle de-escalation. They're also trained in documentation. We do not allow congregating. The purpose of the program is for individuals to come into the lot to be safe and quiet so that they can get a good night's sleep and be prepared for the next day.
Okay, and if you do happen to have individuals that are not following the rules, do you ask them to leave the premises?
Yes, before our monitors ask them to leave the premises, we would try to work with them to actually see if they would just cooperate. If that doesn't work, we have access to having lot leads, which are supervisors on hand, to whereas they can come, they can assist the monitors that are actually at work. And if need be, they call me. And then at that point, if I have to make a decision, we will ask the participant to go. If the participant refuses, then 9 times out of 10, we would call the police. But we pretty much haven't had that type of issue. If we had to ask someone to leave, they pretty much leave. We haven't had any issues where they, are argumentative or want to stay or cause a problem.
And that was my next question, how our police would get impacted by these people that may not want to leave the premises in case they are not following the directions that you're asking them to follow. So you said it's minimal the times you have to call the police?
I've not had to call the police for a client that we're asking to leave since we've been up and running for the last year. My interaction with the police has been either something is going on that lot or to report a theft for maybe our stuff being stolen. But outside of that, as far as from a participant standpoint and a community standpoint, we haven't had those type of issues with police involvement.
Okay, and then once somebody...
John, could you also explain to her at the time of intake, and please excuse me, I'm having some voice issues this evening, but explain to her at the time of intake how all the rules and regulations of the lot are explained to the person, and they sign that indicating that they are willing to follow the rules, regulations, and guidelines of each lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that is received upon intake. They are given a full understanding of the expectations for the program.
And if somebody's requesting rental assistance, what's the turnaround period for them to receive that? And do you help them find a place to live, or you just give them the funds? How does that work?
Okay, for us, like I said, it's two different modalities. It's problem solving, and there's also rapid rehousing. When we come across someone who actually has found a place, our turnaround time is solely based on the time when they can come in, sign the documentation. We can get it to the corresponding person, i.e. problem solving LASA representative or our VOA representative, get it signed off. Once it's signed off, it's submitted from a VOA standpoint to our corporate office, and a check is cut in form of third party with that individual's name to whatever leasing agency, apartment owner, or however that process may come up. With problem solving, it's basically the same thing, but we submit the paperwork and the documentation to LASA. The turnaround time is anywhere from 7 to 14 days. but we do make contact with the landlords and advise them of what our intentions are, what the turnaround time is. We do work hand in hand, not just with the participant, but at that point with the landlord as well.
Okay, and then you said it's LASA and Volunteers of America. So who maintains the area once they leave in the morning? I know they have a time they need to leave by. Do they help you keep it maintained, or is it just something you do for them, or do you ask them so they can take some pride of where they're staying to help out and make sure it's maintained clean?
Well, from the time we take on, our purpose is to make sure that that lot is clean. So if our monitors come on and the lot is not clean, that's part of our setup with our monitors. They're tasked with making sure that that lot is actually clean and ready for receivership.
Mhm.
The day-to-day, how could you put it, cleaning and everything that goes along with whatever service provider we're working with, that still will continue on their behalf, however they work it out. But for us, when we come on site, whatever needs to be done, we make sure that it's done.
So you've never made it part of the program for the people that are staying there to be actual volunteers to make sure the place is maintained? And
No,
how-
that, because part of the program is a safe, conducive environment for them to sleep. That would disrupt their sleep time. Because basically the parking lot is only open during the night hours.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for your help.
John, let me jump in and also mention, John, can you tell them about the housing navigator that we have in the program that will be assisting the individuals with housing as well?
Yes, as far as from a case management standpoint, if we do come around and find somebody who is eligible for housing, they want housing, part of that process would be our own basic internal referral, whereas our case manager would give the documentation and submit the documentation to the housing manager. And at that point, the housing specialist would take that information and primarily become that person's one-on-one working with the landlord and the client.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. I'm quite excited of having this service here in our city and along, hopefully with other cities. I absolutely see the value of, what you guys provide to, help folks off the street and provide them a safe environment to spend the night. As we often know, those experiencing homelessness, sleeping at night is, the times in which the worst activities or, people are victimized and so forth. So I have just two questions, if you could answer them, for us. The first is what do you do when an individual family shows up, somebody with a child or a school age youth to one of your facilities? If you could answer that first, please.
Okay, they would have an intake performed and conducted just like an individual. However, we would base them as a family, and our first primary goal is safety for the kids. So we do have family shelters within VOA that we can actually refer out to keep the family unit intact, because that's the ultimate goal, is to keep the family unit intact. However, if the family does not want to go into the family shelter, we do anything and everything that we can to support them to make sure we maintain the family unit. So that has happened, and we have had families before.
Let me jump in on that. We also have another program that's funded by the federal government called Family Tree, where individuals can come during the day to receive case management. It would be a co-enrolled program. And it's also a Volunteers of America program, which is called Family Tree. And they can also get therapy if the family needs family therapy. They can get housing through that particular program as well. They can also receive food, clothing, hygiene, all of that through our Family Tree program. So it is a wraparound approach that we use by co-enrolling this particular participant into our other programs to receive greater services.
Thank you. And then my second question, and this is more of an ongoing question, not only for your folks and your business partners, but also for Mr. Nava and the rest of our staff, is how do we share information in regards to the clients that you're interacting? And I mean this in the sense of, the vertical integration of services. So, we all know that the left is speaking with the right hand and so forth. Can you share a little bit of that process for us? I don't know if it's Greg or Armando that can speak to that.
I can jump on that, John. What we do at Volunteers of America, once we co-enroll, we hold what is called case conferences, where all parties that are dealing with the family or the individual review the case, go over its needs, and work together to come up with a common goal, which is sustainability. So we do hold case conferences with the client in the room, with the other facilitators, whether it be a family tree person, whether it be a safe parking case manager, whether it be, we also provide, we have SCADP, which is Southern California Alcohol and Drug Programs. So if the person has indicated that they have some type of substance abuse problem, we also refer them to our program for substance abuse issues, or substance, the new terminology, substance use disorders. So we all get together, all the case managers that are dealing with this particular individual or family, review the case and come up with solutions with them.
Thank you. And then one last thing, are you also able to accept folks that may not necessarily have a vehicle, but they have a shopping cart and they're looking for a place to lay their heads in a safe environment?
For those individuals, we would refer them to one of our shelters or a shelter in the immediate area. This program primarily is for vehicles, for individuals who are experiencing vehicular homelessness. So to answer your question, no. However, we wouldn't turn away as far as referring them to a appropriate site, so to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much, because each of us, and I think each of the council members, always interact with various our homeless population, and we're always looking for ways to help them seek support, but more importantly, move towards some sort of transitional permanent homes. And this is something that's once we have this established, we can refer them at least to your sites if it's during the day or during the evening, to kind of again be able to wrap our hands around them and provide them the support and as needed. So thank you for everything you guys have been doing. I've been quite a big fan of VOAD and all the other projects that you guys do across the county. So welcome to our city, and hopefully you'll be here for a very long time with us.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Craig and John, for that explanation and the presentation. At this time, I would like to go over some of the locations that we have located here in the city, either they're city-owned or non-city-owned. The first two locations is the Cruz Baca Metrolink station, and the next one is the barbershop, which is located at 14824 Ramona Boulevard. And also we have contacted 3 faith organizations in the city. The first one is First Christians Church. The next one is Church of the Redeemer in St. John the Baptist. And also we're going to be going over the pros and cons of each location. Thank you. First location is the Cruz Baca Metrolink station, located at 3825 Downing Avenue. The pros of that location is close proximity to the police department, access to large parking spaces, and centrally located. The cons is a portable restroom visible, the length of the program requirement, and that depends on when we start the program, and it is semi-residential and business area. The next slide, the next location is the barbershop. Like I mentioned, it's at 14824 Ramona Boulevard. The pros is close proximity to commercial businesses, access to 20 parking spaces, access to secure fencing, and centrally located. The cons is the length of the program requirement. Once again, it all depends when we start the program, and adjacent to Ramona Boulevard and to Las Palomas Housing Project. Now our faith organizations. First one is the First Christian Church, which is located at 1461 Baldwin Park Boulevard. The pros is promising collaboration, close proximity to the Terry G. Muse Family Service Center for program assistance, access to 40 parking spaces, and is centrally located. Cons, pending formal approval by the church council. Morgan Park, heavily utilized, may deter participation. The length of the program requirement, and is adjacent to Ramona Boulevard and Baldwin Park Boulevard. Close proximity to downtown and major shopping center. And also it might impact the Kaiser program, as you're aware, we're doing currently with vaccination. Our next location is the Church of the Redeemer, located at 3739 Monterey Avenue. Pros is promising collaboration. It is 1.2 miles from the Terry G. Muse Family Service Center for program assistance and access to 80 parking spaces. The cons is pending approval by church council. The church, it is surrounded by residential homes, and again, the length of the program requirement. And also, there's Kenmore Elementary School, which is across directly from the church. Our last location is St. John the Baptist Catholic Church, located at 3870 Stewart Avenue. Pros is promising collaboration, 0.8 mile from the Terry G. Muse Family Service Center for program assistance, access to 90 parking spaces. And again, cons is pending approval by church council. It is surrounded by residential homes and apartments, and the length of the program is the requirement. Also, they operate a school from kindergarten through junior high. At this time, if you guys have any questions, or any feedback, Honorable Mayor and council members.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember.
thank you. Thank you for sharing that presentation. My concern with some of the sites would be the libraries and the schools. And that leads me to question, I can't imagine that we would do like background checks on those who are staying overnight. Do we?
Well, as Mr. Craig and John explained, in regards to the time, the participants will be leaving way before the kids get to school. And it's something that maybe John and Craig could answer. John, do you guys do background checks on participants?
Not sure if they're with us. Oh,
I'm
maybe
still
they are.
here.
I'm still here. Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't do background checks because that would be a barring or disqualifying factor. We provide services for any and all individuals. So as far as doing background checks, no, we don't perform or conduct background checks on our participants.
And so, and I understand that concept and that approach. I think that you could understand, the concerns of having children in the area. So tell me again what time every morning, what time the cars would be cleared out.
So as we spoke with John and Craig, the time could be adjustable. So they normally operate from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Say we do go with the church and they do have maybe a program ending at 7 or 8. They explained to us that they could adjust the time. They could start at 8 or 9 and also leave the premises. If they need to leave before 6 a.m., they could do that. So, but normally they operate from 7 to 7 p.m. But again, John and Craig, if you guys could maybe elaborate a little bit more in regards to the time.
Yes, our programs are based on the particular site. Each site represents its own individual prospect. So what we do is we work with that community, those stakeholders, to find what is going to be most feasible for that community. So our hours typically, we have from 6 p.m. no later than 6 a.m. in the morning. All of our lots in at 6 a.m. Our monitoring staff wake up, our first wake up is 5, second wake up is 5:15. By 5:30, the lots are primarily clear and our staff is off the lot at 6 a.m.
Okay, that's
Thank-
good to know. Thank you.
Great.
Because yes, I do think that's something that we need to consider given the proximity of these locations to, again, the library or schools. And I have a question for Armando. Are we being asked to make any decisions on any of these sites, or do all of these, is it possible that all of these sites would be part of the program?
Well, it all depends on what organizations are willing to participate. We've talked to John and Craig. Say, for example, if Church of the Redeemer could only do, say, Monday and Wednesday, and the other churches could take over those other dates, then we're able to move, the program to a different location. And again, we don't have to decide. It all depends how we want to run the program and what times.
And which one of these sites would allow or has the potential to allow for the parking every night?
So I think we have more, I guess, control and better to run that program, be the Cruz Baca Metrolink station, because we cooperate there on a daily basis. Whereas the other faith organizations do decide to participate, but it does conflict with any other programs. We would have to move the program from location to location.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the Cruz Baca site, it's next to the police department as well. And I don't mean to put a negative cloud over this operation. I just want to, think this through and make it successful for those who need the services, and also those that are in the surrounding neighborhoods. So it seems to me like the Cruz Baca site, it's right next to the police department. It's next to City Hall. It's not far from the Terry G. Muse Center. If it can offer nightly service, then it's consistent. It's pretty centrally located. So I think I would be favoring that site if you ask me. So, and again, it's not close to any specific use where children will gather. So that would be my preference and my recommendation.
Thank you.
Yes, if I may
Can I-
add, we actually
ahead,
do
John.
have one site that is actually up and running. Our East Los Angeles Metro site is in partnership with Metro. So we do have a site, something similar to that site proposal, to whereas you have access from not just the commuter trains, but you have a police station in close proximity. And you also have freeway access, to when you leave out or come in. So just to throw that in, so you guys will know about some of the services that we offer.
Thank you, John.
Also, Mayor Pro Tem and council members, just like to also inform you that we still need to apply for funding through San Gabriel Valley Consortium, COG, as well as LASHA. So we could return back to the city council with additional information in the next few meetings, city council meetings, and we could prioritize which sites would work out the best. I tend to think the Cruz Baca Trans Center is also probably the best site. I also think Terry, the Church of the Redeemer, seems like a pretty good site as well. But we could definitely bring back additional information as soon as we find out if we will be funded and we receive the funding from LASHA.
Great. So, I think it makes sense to apply. So I think before we, we stick to a certain site, I think it'd be nice to maybe reach out to all of them and get a for sure answer on how far, how far they're willing to do on their part. And then that way we have a better idea of how we can plan around it, right? Because I think some of these sites are
Yes.
great, and if they're willing to work with us, then, we don't know that until we ask, right? So I think it's maybe one of the first steps we should take, reach out to all of these sites, get a better idea of, what they're willing to do. And if it benefits us, great. If not, then we can move on to the next site. But just
Yes, Mayor, also as a small footnote, there may be a small stipend for hosting the site. So if one of the faith-based organizations were to host a site, there may be a small stipend for them to receive to offset any costs. Thank you. This concludes staff's presentation. If you have any more questions, be more than happy to answer any of them.
No, and then just to be clear, did we have to pick a site before you applied, or you can apply and then pick the site?
We could apply and pick a site after. We have a handful of sites, so I think one of them will probably work out.
Okay, so it seems like we can kind of simultaneously take the two different factors on at the same time, right?
Yes.
So if the rest of council is okay with that, I think we should move forward with that.
Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And then thank you for being here in that presentation. And thank you, Manny. I know we kind of asked you, and you got on it right away, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, staff.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Yes, of course, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Great. And so at this point, I believe we have a Prism Insurance presentation by our HR and Risk Manager, Laura Thompson.
Mayor, that presentation was moved to the other meeting.
Oh, was it? Okay, great. Sorry about that.
Yes, we moved it. Sorry, Mayor. We moved it to another time.
No worries. Great. Okay, so then at this point, we are moving on to recess to closed session. So I will see some of you in the next meeting.
Mayor, before we close,
Uh-huh.
we need to add an item on that came up after the posting of the agenda.
Great.
We would like to add on the employee appointment for the CEO. Information came up after the posting of the agenda. We would need a 4-1 vote to add that onto closed session.
So we need everybody back on right here, right?
Yeah, if they hopefully didn't leave.
I think they did. So let me text them real quick.
Looks like we have Alejandra.
Okay. I'm going to call the rest of the council members.
Okay. Mark, is everybody back?
Still waiting for Councilmember Hernandez.
Is Mayor Pro Tem here?
I think city attorney, as long as we have a vote of 4, we can add it on.
Yeah, so I thought Mayor Pro Tem was in here, but I don't see her anymore.
She left.
She was.
Okay. Yeah, so we're waiting for one more.
I think Monica, Councilwoman Garcia, she joined.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so I see council member, I see all of them now. Okay, so we're all here.
Robert, do you need to lay the foundation?
Oh, you are on mute.
Robert, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor and City Council, we need to add, or I'm suggesting that we add as an urgency item, the employee appointment. We did get information that occurred after the publishing of the agenda. It is a rather urgent item, and there was no way for us to give proper notice to it. In order to add it as an urgency item onto the agenda, we would need a 4/5 vote based on the facts I just laid out.
Great. So just make a motion to add that item to the that urgency item to the agenda, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And then we have to name that item, or is that okay?
Yeah, you're naming to the, you're adding to the closed session agenda, employee appointment.
Great.
CEO.
So we're making a motion to add an urgency item to the closed session for the position of CEO.
Employee appointment, employee appointment.
For the employee appointment for the position of CEO.
Yes,
Second.
Mr. Mayor.
Great. And then, so I have a second. Is there any objections? None? Great. So I believe that, Robert, that becomes a 5-0 and we are clear to do so, correct?
That is correct. That item has now been added to the closed session agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. And I believe now we are good to go into the closed session.
Correct.
Yep.
Great.